So anyway, my name is Dr. Christine Ranck. Welcome to my show on yakit.com called Get Ignited. And tonight I have a wonderful guest, Nadia Ackerman, who is an incredible artist and recording artist and singer and performer. And we're going to talk about the healing creative power of EMDR. So before we start, first of all, I want to thank Yakit for having me, and I see we have a guest over here. Hi, Valley. Nice to see you. I want to thank Yakit for the great privilege of using this technology. I can't even express how excited I am to have a show like this, and I hope that you enjoy yourselves tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about EMDR because you may or may not know anything about it. But as luck would have it, I'm an EMDR therapist here in New York, and EMDR is probably one of the most, if not the most effective treatment there is for, first of all, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is one of the things that you get when you have a lot of trauma in your life. For example, after 9/11, the firefighters, many of them had PTSD, which means symptoms of nightmares and flashbacks and cold sweats and all kinds of terrible body symptoms, in addition to a lot of emotional things going on. So a treatment like EMDR is incredibly effective in ways that other treatments just aren't. So EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. It's a terrible name, but we're kind of stuck with it, and it was discovered totally by accident about 25 years ago by Francine Shapiro, who was walking in the park and moving her eyes back and forth as she walked, and realized that she felt a lot better and was having new insights about things that really surprised her. And unlike most of us who don't even notice that stuff, she noticed and wondered what she had been doing, and that made her feel so much better and made her realize things that she hadn't before. So she realized that she had been moving her eyes back and forth, and so she began experimenting with it, and then began working with colleagues, experimenting with following each other's fingers back and forth, and thinking about something that was bothering them, and seeing what would happen. And people had amazing results from doing that. You know, they were just experimenting. So eventually they took it to a clinic for war veterans. Some of these guys from Vietnam had had symptoms of PTSD, terrible symptoms, for 20 years. And the only treatment at that time was to be medicated. And so they went in, they did sessions, they asked these men to focus on traumatic memories while moving their eyes back and forth like this. And there are other aspects of EMDR that had also been incorporated by then. And almost without exception, those men were cured. Within 1 to 3 90-minute sessions, they were all cured of their symptoms. So that's when everybody knew that EMDR was here to stay. 25 years later, it is a highly, highly effective, incredible treatment for trauma, and each and every one of us, Nadia is nodding, each and every one of us has had trauma, whether we were at 9/11 World Trade Center, whether we've been in a car accident, or whether we had a father who was critical and said, you know, over and over again in different ways, you're kind of a dummy. Subtle trauma like that over time can be very, very traumatic. And EMDR has the power to really undo that in a way that talking about things just doesn't. So it seems to get into your nervous system. And the other thing that we discovered is that it's not just eye movements, it's any kind of right-left stimulation of your body that has a profound effect on the brain. So part of the reason why you feel so much better when you go for a walk is because you're right-lefting, 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 right? And you frequently feel better, and you have new insights, all of that stuff. That's because of the bilateral stimulation. In other words, any kind of right-left stimulation. So when they were doing eye movements, they were going their eyes back and forth. When you tap your body or when you walk, things are going right to left, right, left. And then the final way is with sound that goes from right to left in your ears instead of stereo. If you're wearing headphones, you can have the same effect of right to left, back and forth. And now that we can do brain scans, we know that the whole brain lights up when this bilateral stimulation is happening. It lights up in a way that it doesn't normally. When you're just talking, there isn't a whole lot going on. But when you have bilateral stimulation, your whole brain lights up. It gives us access to a much deeper part of the brain, and it's more like the dreaming brain, the part of our brain where we go at night when we're dreaming and working things out. Well, if we can have access to that information while we're wide awake, we can work with it. And the other thing that it does is that it probably distracts the thinking brain. So if you have a sound over here on the right, and then a sound over here, and then a sound over here, and a sound over here, your brain is kind of scrambled. It gets a lot of intrahemispheric talk going back and forth and distracts that part of your brain, the thinking, logical part, and once again, gives us access to a much deeper kind of processing. As a result, people get better and feel better and understand themselves better much more quickly. And as a trauma therapist, I have seen some of the most amazing and remarkable stuff that I always thought as a trained psychoanalyst was absolutely impossible. And so it so excited me to be able to actually do some. Did it freeze? Okay, no, we're good. To actually do something that was actually helping and quickly. So that's why we're here tonight, is to talk about this incredible technique called EMDR. And so with that, I want to introduce my incredible guest, Nadia Ackerman. Hi, Nadia. I just want to tell you a little bit about her. So I'm going to read this intro, and then I'll tell you about her because I've seen her perform, and it's unbelievable. So Nadia arrived in New York City in the winter of 1998. She stepped off an Amtrak train from Toronto with only a suitcase and a bunch of big ideas and dreams. And I would have to say that is absolutely true. Big ideas this girl has. It's now 2012, and Nadia is the voice of the UPS worldwide campaign, That's Logistics. Ha! That's pretty cool. As well as many other commercials. IAMS, Barnes & Noble, and JCPenney, to name a few. She's just about to step onto the stage at Carnegie Hall, where she will perform for the first time with Sting at Sting and Trudy Styler's Rainforest benefit with James Taylor, Elton John, Billy Joel, Meryl Streep, Jennifer Hudson, and many others. And I saw the list. I can't remember now who, but just amazing people. Her second album, The Ocean Master, was just released into stores on March 6th on her new major independent label signing with Spectra Records. She's also an incredible artist, and she has a piece of artwork for each and every song on this album. There's music and an Australian tour in June, so come along to hear how Nadia arrived where she is today from her humble beginnings in Allambie Heights, Sydney, Australia. And I just want to say that I had the great privilege of hearing Nadia, seeing her perform. I'm guessing it was 3 weeks ago. And I knew she was going to be great, but I have to say I was blown away. I was moved to tears. I stunned. It was what she did was an absolute work of art. So if you have any opportunity to see her live, I highly recommend it. And now I'm going to turn over. I'm going to turn over the camera to this wonderful woman. Welcome, Nadia.
Hi. Wow, that was an introduction. So great to be here. I guess I should start with, really my EMDR story. It's something that I am really passionate about, and actually writing a book about right now with a co-author about my experience, because at the time before I started the EMDR, I really didn't think that there was anything left for me. I really was at the bottom of my pit. And I'd been hanging around the bottom for, 32 odd years and had really hit the bottom. So in a nutshell, I had a breakdown that presented itself as an epileptic seizure. I'm not epileptic, I don't have epilepsy, but that's how it would present itself. I was rushed to the hospital. I had every test under the sun. I spent 5 days in hospital with them, telling me there's absolutely nothing wrong with me, physically. So the 5 days I was there, I was having these seizures like every couple of hours. And then once the seizure was done, I would be in a state of what I would call like catatonic, so there'd be nobody home. And I could stay in that state of nobody home for hours, where I would have no sensation, no feeling. I could hear everyone, but I couldn't respond. It just was not in my body. So I'd been a migraine sufferer since I was 9, and I believed that this was a very severe form of migraine, because I'd also, accompanied by all of this, was the most horrific headache that never went away. I was sleeping 18 hours at a time. Basically my life had just stopped, and I was just trying to stay alive. So I went to a migraine clinic here in Manhattan on Fifth Avenue and told her what had gone on. She believed that it was a style of migraine called a basilar artery migraine, and she put me on medication. So the medication for the migraine obviously didn't make a difference. I continued to have the seizures, continued to be in this, this state. My partner at the time actually filmed one of my episodes, and when we went back to see the doctor at the migraine clinic, we showed her the video. And she said that she had misdiagnosed me. She said, this is not migraine. She said, I think you have dissociation disorder. And I was like, look, I've done therapy already. I've done 3 years of talking, all right? I've done that. It's not that. I know, I've done all that. So, yeah, good one, right? Hilarious. So she was like, well, there's this lady that does this therapy called EMDR. Her name is Sue Pinko, and I went to Columbia with her, and she's incredible, and I believe that she's going to be able to help you. And she gave me her card, and I was like, you know what, I've done this therapy thing already, whatever. Took her card, went home, spent another 2 weeks at home, and while I was in this state, I mean, I never went outside. I didn't, it was game over. I was just out of the game. After about 2 more weeks of this, I just woke up one morning and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I've had enough. I'll call this woman, Sue Pinko, whatever, EMDR, blah, blah. And and I went in, and I was like a shell of myself. I was grey. I was for me, overweight. It was in a really bad way. And I sat down on her couch, and my partner, he told her about what was going on. He stayed for the first 10 minutes, and then he left. And then Sue and I started to work. And it was after the first session, I walked out of there with my posture, coming back to normal, and it was unbelievable what happened just in that first session. So we decided that things were pretty bad, and we needed to get me at least functioning again, eating, showering, back in society. So I went 3 days a week for about 6 months. And in that time, just that first 6 months transformed me. Sorry, my dog is trying to get my attention. Completely transformed me, and we went for about 9 months, and then we decided that I would take a break. and not a break of not coming back, but just we'd made some really big steps forward, and it was time for me to just step back. And she said to me, "You're not going to know yourself, in another 6 months, because you're going to keep processing and keep working once you've left here, and you just won't be unaware of it." And I was like, I know myself, I've done these 9 months with you. We've been through so much. If I don't know myself by now, whew. And she was like, she knew what was coming. I had no idea. So I'm a singer, and I had been a singer since I was 15. So I'd been singing for many, many years and performing. But I was a jazz singer and had never written a song in my life, ever. Was just something that, I was so blocked that it was not even on my radar of anything that I might be able to do. And I also believed that I had nothing to say, which is absolutely hilarious because, as you can see, you can't shut me up. So I left, and within it must have been a week, someone in the family of my partner had died, and he sent us his piano. So this piano turned up at our apartment, and I hadn't played the piano really since I was 6, and I hated the piano because my teacher was 100 years old and smelled like mothballs, and it was so boring, and all I could hear was the ticking of the clock. And my mum sent me there because she wanted to play, not because I wanted to play. So this piano turned up, and I was like, oh, piano? Here was my 6-year-old self going, oh, gosh, get that thing away. So every morning I lived in a studio apartment, so I couldn't escape this piano. Every morning I woke up, I saw it, I had to walk past it to get to the kitchen, walk past it to get to the bathroom. I never opened it. So after about a week, one morning I woke up, and I had a song in my head, what I thought was a song. I was unsure because it never happened to me before, but this complete piece was in my head. It was a melody, it was lyrics, it was form, the name of the song, everything was there. And so I thought, I think this is a song, I'm not sure. So I walked over to the piano, I opened it, and I could play. I was playing like a 6-year-old because that's where I left off. But I could play, and it blew my mind, first of all, that I could play. So I sat down, and in 10 minutes I wrote my first song. It was called June, and it was about the passing of my dad, and he passed when I was 17. It was a very traumatic, extremely traumatic time, and one of the reasons I ended up in EMDR, because it was completely unprocessed. So I sat down, and out came my first song, and so I wrote it down. I wrote the lyrics down. I wrote the notes down because I was like, well, I think that's a D7. I'm not really sure, so I just would write, D, G, write everything down, just so I had a document of it. My partner came home from work, and he was like, what did you get up to today? And I said, well, I think I wrote a song, but I'm not really sure. It's like, well, play it for me. I said, all right. So he sat down, and I sat down at the piano, and I played and I sang, and this has never happened before in my life. And I finished, and I turned around, and he was bawling his eyes out. And I was like, do you like it? He was like, why don't you try and write another one tomorrow? He was just blown away, and I was like, oh, all right. So next morning I woke up, oh, is this a song? It's another song. So this went on for a year. Well, it went on for many years, but this first year, after the 9 months of EMDR, I wrote 350 songs in the year. Some days I was writing 2 a day, 3 a day. I'd get to situations where any running water would start the song. So I'd be at Columbus Circle and the fountains would be running, and I'd have to run home because it would be a song. Or I'd be in the shower and I'd have to get out quickly with shampoo in my hair because there was a song. And it was this, come on, get out. It was just this ridiculous situation that I felt like I actually had no control over. It was like this waterfall of so much music that had been stuffed down by grief and trauma and pain. And so then I started making a record. I didn't realize I was making a record, and so I've finished my second record now, and it's been, I'm trying to think, I left EMDR
but I just wanted to say as an aside that bilateral stimulation in particular has been proven in certain studies to enhance creativity. Just having the right-left stimulation, eye movements or sound, or tapping, body tapping right-left, that has been shown to increase and enhance your natural creativity. And then, of course, as you unload all of this trauma and the symptoms that have been stuck in your nervous system, because our nervous systems are designed to protect us by putting us into sort of a freeze state, which works at the time the trauma is happening, but it doesn't work if it doesn't ever get released and digested in your system. It stays like in this almost encapsulated form. And every time something similar happens that is even remotely reminiscent of the original traumatic experiences or feelings, all this old stuff comes up, and your nervous system makes you feel like all of that horrible stuff is still happening on some level. And on some level, it really is. So EMDR allows it to, we don't know how it works, but allows it to get processed and get integrated and digested properly so that you can use what you've gone through to grow and be, have a different way of thinking about things. Blah, blah. I see that. Would you like to say more, Nadia? I see we have a couple of guests, so I want to ask them to talk if is that okay? Just nod. Okay. Then I'll come back to you. All right. So hello, Rondine.
I didn't even realize that. Oh, hello. I couldn't work my camera, and then I'm using my brother's computer, and then I couldn't work the sound. So I was looking at you guys without sound, and I've gotten out of bed, so I've got no makeup on, and my hair looks terrible. So then I was like, oh, bummer! I have to have a camera on too. But anyway, hi, how are you? I did get the little bit of it, and I loved every second, so there you go. I was thinking, I think I need EMDR myself, actually, believe it or not. I'm like, just laughing.
There probably isn't a person on the planet that couldn't use EMDR. It's a really something remarkable. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Valley Keller over here.
Hi, Nadia. That was an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's just phenomenal, the after effects of the EMDR therapy and how it boosted your creativity without even trying. That's phenomenal. What I wondered was, do you use any EMDR or bilateral techniques right now when you're trying to be more creative? Do you use them on your own?
I don't. I have the music, and I know all the things that I can do if I need to. But I guess the thing is that I don't try. That's the thing. It's like I don't need any of that. I don't need anything. It's just I was there for 4 years, so I think all of that work has kind of got me to a place now where it's like when you're learning to sing and you have lessons and you're thinking about a high note or a low note, la la la, and then you get to a point where you've practiced for so long that you just sing, and it's just natural. You don't think about high notes, low notes. It's just a part of, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, and you sing. And I feel like with the EMDR, I've arrived at a place where it's just present and practiced, and it's just something that I just know. Like every now and then, and it compared to how often it used to happen, which was all the time. Every now and then I find I will dissociate, or I will find myself leaving. And the beautiful thing about EMDR is that what it actually does is give you tools to deal with life, so that if I'm in a situation now where I find I'm dissociating, then I check in with myself and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Is someone speaking to you in a way that's triggering something? Are you remembering something from a long time ago? So I'm able to check in, ask myself, why are you leaving, wanting to leave, having that feeling to leave? and then I will answer the question myself and then take care of it. Either leave the situation, hang up the phone, do whatever I need to do to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm safe. So I'd say that's one of the other sort of biggest things that I got from this therapy, is that it's a lifelong tool that I use in every part of my life. When I'm in yoga, often I go to yoga, like I try 5 days a week. It's usually 3 or 4. But I do Ashtanga, which is a very challenging yoga. It's first thing in the morning, empty stomach, and I find myself there at times where I'll be in a certain posture and I will dissociate, or I'll begin to leave the room, and it's like, bring it back. Where are you gone? Why are you leaving? Is it because the posture's difficult? Are you dealing with, is this posture, touching your liver, and is that triggering something? So it's, I use it on stage. I find that the EMDR enables me to, be present is the first thing. It's the biggest tool that I had to learn, and I wasn't allowed to leave Sue until I'd got that one down. But I use it in my singing. I mean, I'm able to tap into emotions and parts of myself that if I hadn't have done the EMDR, I wouldn't have been able to go there. And before the EMDR, I wasn't able to go there, and so my music was kind of blah, because I wasn't really affecting anyone because I wasn't connected. So how could I connect to people and affect them if I can't even, connect to myself?
Actually, you answered all of my questions. I was curious about your psychic too. You didn't know it did that for you. I was actually going to ask, the music writing spontaneously kind of burst out of you, and it was a brand new thing. So I was curious what kinds of things in your life had changed or improved that you could actually kind of measure this by. And you've talked about, exercise and your performing and things like that being parts of your life that have definitely moved forward because of the therapy that you've done with EMDR. So thank you for that too. And done.
I just wanted to add what you said so beautifully, is that how can I connect with other people if I can't even connect with myself? And I think that what happens frequently in trauma is that we do disconnect from parts of ourselves, especially if we've been traumatized, even big traumas or little traumas, or kind of chronic traumas, like having a critical father, for example. But we, as children, we begin to push down those parts of ourselves that are not okay. And then we completely lose track of those parts of ourselves, and we lose those children, and we lose our connection with them. And yet they're still there in this sort of frozen state, and they can run things sometimes, or they can be, you're nodding, or they can get scared and then make you go away. Or, there are all kinds of versions of that, and every single person has the capacity to go away and dissociate. It's built into us as a protective mechanism. So dissociation is very natural. It's the same thing that we have when we're driving and suddenly we realize we're home and we don't remember how we got there. That's dissociation. It's sort of a downloading. You just go away and things happen naturally. But when you dissociate and it's not a good thing, then it's really problematic, especially if you can't control it or you don't know why it's happening. So the idea, like you said, is to reconnect with those parts of ourselves that have been disconnected. And when you connect with yourself and those kids, obviously you must have reconnected at times with the hurt children inside of you, right? And so then when you reconnect with them, you never lose connection with them again. They were lost in there somewhere, but now they have you. And it's this very odd kind of time travel-y thing where you reach back into the past and you reconnect, and then that you sort of like moving together forward into the future together now. It's like everybody's joined hands finally instead of being all separate. And when you're together inside, then the outside of your life reflects that also, and you can be together with people, other people outside of you. And obviously, you just did an incredibly magnificent job of healing and doing all of that stuff that I just talked about. So I'm so curious to find out what, I don't know if you can describe it, it's kind of indescribable to have, when you're inside kind of moving around in there with whatever you're doing in EMDR, but I don't know if you remember any of your sessions specifically or what it was like to be inside, but I'd love to hear. I'm sure people would love to hear. Okay, good.
As though I was going to nod my head off. Everything I was like, yes. I do want to touch on first all the different ages. It was something that really struck me. And it's, hold on, I just got to get the dog. Chachi, come here. Sorry, one of my babies. Come here. Chach, quickly. Oh, sorry. Chachi, come here. Quick. Come. This is Chachi. He wants to get on the bed. This is Chachi. Okay, so lie down. So, one of the, it's kind of, looking back, it's hilarious, but at the time it was a real problem because it was holding back my entire healing process. There was a certain age, and we didn't know how old she was, who was holding everybody hostage, all the ages. She was protecting everyone. And she really, one of the reasons I was there for 4 years was because she would not let us in. I mean, she was so good at protecting. It was like, Sue was pretty dumbfounded at times. She tried every technique to get in there, and there was no way. But what we discovered was that there was a chamber inside me, like a cave, and I actually described the cave to Sue, and it was an empty cave. There was no furniture. It was cold. It was dark, and my 14-year-old self, we found out she was 14, had everyone in there, all the ages, and she controlled everybody. And this 14-year-old self was petrified, scared, lonely, sad. She was every horrible, emotion that you can imagine. Depressed, shy, no confidence, And she was trying to keep, she did a good job in my childhood, and I needed her. But now as a woman in my 30s, I didn't need her anymore, in the cave and being so nasty. So there was this cave that I described to Sue, and I actually have put it in one of my drawings. It was cold and dark, and it had two like wooden doors. And then outside the cave, there was actually a garden, and there was greenery and, birds, and it was like normal land. But inside this cave was where we all hung out. And, Sue would, once we'd worked out that what was going on, that we'd found the cave, and we'd found her, and we knew she was in there, and everyone else was in there, Sue was then trying to work out how do we get her out, and how do we let her know that it's safe enough to come out, and it's actually going to be amazing. I was so scared. I, as a 30, my 30s, was so scared of going into that cave that, every time if we got too close, I would dissociate to the point where, there were times where she was going to have to call an ambulance because she couldn't get me back. So we had to be very, very, very careful with how we approached her. And she would do things like say, I've got these chocolate chip cookies. And I go, I don't even like chocolate chip cookies, things like that. And she'd be like, well, I put those chocolate chip cookies outside the cave. And when we came back, one of them was gone. And I was like, no, it wasn't, because she doesn't like chocolate chip cookies. So there was stuff like this that was so funny looking back. But Sue was like, all right, we'll try something else. So I'm trying to remember how we actually got in. I don't know how I can't remember, but we'd got to a place of safety where she started to show herself in the sessions. So there were sessions where my 14-year-old self was running the entire session, and it's like I wasn't even there. And when Sue would ask me a question, my 14-year-old self would respond. So I'd say things like, and when you're 14, you're a teenager, you're a bit of a punk, you're pubescent, you're rude, you're not obnoxious. And I was really giving Sue a hard time. I mean, my attitude was, I'd say things like, it's none of your business, you need to stop poking around here, or when the 14-year-old came to the session, I wouldn't talk for the whole time. I'd just be like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. And, we could have weeks of this chick running the show, and she was pretty great. But I had to, our goal was to get all of my ages. If you sort of think about a big line, and there's, my 1-year-old self, my 2-year-old self, all the way up to now, all of us lined up and we're equal. So my 14-year-old self, if you imagine the line of all my ages, my 14-year-old self was no longer in the front saying, all right, guys, I'm in charge. Everyone shut up. She was mean. She was not nice to them. They were scared. No one else wanted to come out. No, when we tried to access the 6-year-old or the 10-year-old, they're like, I'm not speaking, I'll get in trouble by, the boss. So the goal was to try and get everyone in one line so that everyone has an equal voice, so that if the 14-year-old wants to speak, great, let's hear what you have to say. And then the 16-year-old self can say, oh yeah, that's cool, that's not working. But everyone has equal say, and it's all okay, whatever they want to say. And that was really the goal, was trying to integrate all of myself as one person. So I am one person, but I'm made up of, 37 ages, and we all together with our experiences and how we see the world create, my music and create my life and create my decisions and just create how I am in the world, so that, it's balanced and it's playful and it's serious and it's protected and safe, and it's like everything together. And there was I will explain one session that we had so that people who don't understand EMDR could sort of get an idea of what it's like or how it was for me. This one particular session, I would get in and we'd sit down and we would just start talking. And once we'd come across something that was clearly painful or needed to be processed, then we would begin EMDR. So we had come across this situation where I'd been at a Thanksgiving event, and a fuss was made about me and my food. I'm vegan, I don't like certain things, and I really like certain things. So, for instance, I don't like salmon, and I don't like rye bread. So at this particular event, all that was being served was salmon and rye bread. So I was in a bit of a pickle. Excuse the pun. And I was made fun of, and a big deal was made about me, like, oh, Nadia's so fussy and she doesn't eat her food, and, she has to go and have her own special food from the kitchen and la, la, la. Now, before the EMDR, that would have happened and I would have just laughed it off. But there would have been a lot of damage going on inside. But because I'd just started the EMDR and I was open and vulnerable, I felt myself wanting to cry, and I was like, why am I crying? She hassles me. Every time we come to her house, she hassles me about food, and I've never cared. The last 2 years I've never cared, and all of a sudden, this really matters, and this is really hurting, and I am about to bawl my eyes out of the table, and I can't believe this. I had to hold myself together. What's going on? Why am I so affected? When we left the event, I explained to my partner. He was like, you okay? And I was like, I'm not okay. And she had a go at me about the food, and he's like, but she always does. I'm like, yeah, but for some reason I didn't handle it today, and I don't know why. So when I got in to see Sue, I explained the situation, and she said, well, how old do you think that part of you was that was upset about the food? And I was like, oh. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, she's 6. Oh my gosh, okay, I know what's going on. And I just started to cry. And I cried like I couldn't stop. Sue couldn't even work out what I was crying about because I cried so hard I couldn't even tell her. I knew what was going on. I knew who was being affected. Once I'd finished crying, I explained that when I was 6, I had a situation at home where my mum, she cooked the most amazing meals from scratch. She was a housewife. She cooked, she cleaned, she ironed. She was the best housewife you could ever imagine. I mean, she did it really well. And she cooked meals from scratch. But sometimes there would be stuff on the plate that you didn't really like. So we lived on a park, and the 4 of us, there was 4 kids, and we would eat in the kitchen, and we had a tri-level house, and my dad was working, 24 hours a day, never saw him. So my mum, she would cook the food and then go downstairs in the living room by herself and eat her dinner and watch TV. Interesting. But the 4 of us would eat alone. So we lived on a park, and my older sister we'd all organise what we didn't like on our plate, and then we'd give it to our older sister, and she would run across the park in the dark, really scary stuff, to the creek, throw the food in the creek, run back. We'd organise our plates so that you couldn't see anything. And then Mum would come up and, dinner was great. Yeah, I loved it. Anyway, we'd been doing this for years and totally got away with it. One day, I guess something slipped off the plate, right by the back door. So when my mum went to put the washing out, she trod in mash or peas or whatever it was and was like, okay. So she'd worked out what was going on and, called us on it. So that night, the dinner that came had peas on it, and I hate peas. I still hate them today, and I hated them then. But she knew I hated peas. So, my brothers and sisters ate their food and stuff they didn't like and drank it down with, cordial or juice or whatever. But I was the kind of kid and had the kind of personality was like, I'm not eating it, I don't like it, I'm not eating it. So they got dessert and they were excused from the table, and I had to sit at the table and with these peas until I was done. Now, I didn't want to eat them. She moved me to the dining room in the dark with these peas. I was probably there till, midnight. Now, when you're 6 and you don't want to eat peas and you're forced to eat peas, so it was a very traumatic experience for me. It may not sound so crazy, but for me it was very traumatic. And it's something that I carried with me. All my issues with food were based around this one experience with peas. So we went, once we worked that out, we put the headphones on with the left to right music, and we have these glasses where you either cover this eye or this eye, and a stick that you follow. So first of all, you've got to work out which eye is holding the discomfort. So we put the glasses on with this one, and it would go, and you'd follow the stick, and you'd be like, no, nothing. And then you'd put these ones on, and then you'd be like, right there, right there. Oh my gosh. So once you've found the spot, then you stare at it. And what happened with me at this time for this processing, this actual event, was I actually, once I started staring at that point, the room, because I would often in my sessions see green, like green blobs or green molecules, very strange. I started just seeing green. The whole room turned green, this blob of green. Sue disappeared, the room disappeared. I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't in the room anymore. I was in this place, this green globule, and I had taken myself back to the dining room table, and I was 6 again, and I was there with the peas. And Sue was there with me, and she would say, what's going on now? Where are you? What are you seeing? What are you feeling in your body? What are you hearing? I would tell her. So I was like, okay, I'm at the table. I'm here. She's like, all right. And so I'm in the room as my 30-year-old self, and I'm watching the scene. So Sue says, okay, what does your 6-year-old need? What does she need? So I'm like, well, she doesn't want to eat the peas. Okay, so we'll take the peas away. Does she want some dessert? Does she want a hug? Does she, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in your ideal mother. What's your ideal mother? And I was like, what? Ideal mother? No concept of that. I don't know. She's like, all right, well, what about if we bring in someone who has loving qualities, who is caring, and anyone in your life? It could be a friend, it could be someone from your past, a grandmother, someone that loved you and cared for you and nurtured you. And so I was like really grasping at straws, this ideal mother situation. I was like, man, this doesn't exist. Very difficult. So I brought in a caring friend. Actually, I brought in my friend's mother from childhood, who I loved, who I still love today. And so we brought her in, and she took care of the situation. So we changed things. We had the ideal mother, so I had a caring, nurturing person there. And I told my 6-year-old self that she doesn't need to eat the peas anymore. And we turned the light on, and we gave her dessert, and I tucked her into bed and told her that it's okay, and, she doesn't ever have to do that again. And we did that, and then slowly the green started to disappear, and slowly Sue came back, and slowly I was in the room again. And this all took about maybe 30 minutes. But when you're in it, it's like you have no concept of time or space or anything. It's such a strange thing. And then when I came out, Sue would then say, so, explain to me what happened, how it felt. So I told her what happened, and then she would say to me at the end of the session, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being excruciatingly painful, 1 being nothing. If I ask you now about sitting at the table, being 6 with peas, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? And I was like, 2. And she was like, all right, well, when we see you next week, if we need to, I'm going to ask you again about the peas, and if we need to, if it's more than that, or then we'll go back in and do some more work, but otherwise you should be, I think we're done. So what happened was quite unbelievable after that, because after that, all of my issues with food just dissolved. Everything disappeared. All my counting calories and protein and exercising and diet and, the rules that I had set up for myself with the horrible, mean things that I was doing to myself to control this, all gone, all disappeared. And it literally just sort of was like poof, just gone. And, it's so hard to explain this to other people who are perhaps in such a horrible place, because I really was. I was suicidal from the time I can remember till my breakdown. All I ever wanted to do each day was kill myself, work out how can I do this, what's the best way to do this, to just get out of the pain. I was in so much pain, that's all I wanted to do. And, people who meet me today for the first time, if I tell them this story, you can't believe that I was in such a place, but I really was, and I was desperately in desperate pain, and I could never imagine that I would feel the way that I feel today, that I would be in complete peace, that there would be no more, 100 voices in here. I was so exhausted because I had so many people talking and telling me things to do and not to do and how to do it and why I shouldn't be doing it, don't do that, don't say that, and why are you wearing that, and the EMDR just gave me complete peace. And as the time goes on, as each day goes on, I become more peaceful and I become more creative, if that's possible. But it's like the EMDR continues to develop in me, even though it's been nearly a year. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was an incredible description of what it's like. And, I always like to tell my clients that we're designed to heal. We are healing machines, and as easily as we can heal from a cut, and as quickly, if we can get out of the way and just let things happen spontaneously with a little bit of guidance, and in this case, EMDR and bilateral stimulation and the eye stuff that I want to talk about, then everything, it's a very, very natural process. It's a very natural process, and the therapist is different. The therapist is not the expert. You are, because it's your life and your children inside. And that little girl, that traumatized little girl, was running things every time. Anything that had to do with the meals, it was like she was stuck in there and terrified and sad and feeling like she had no control and everything. So as far as she was concerned, food, I'm sure, was very dangerous and had to be managed. And it's so amazing that you could then go back. So she came away with that belief that food is a bad thing. Whatever you can probably say more about what the belief was for that little girl. But by being able to reach back in time and really make contact with her and provide her with exactly what she needed, it didn't change what actually happened to you as a little girl, but it did change for her the experience of being safe and being able to have some control and make some choices. And that allowed your nervous system to release her in this way, like speaking of food, that you could actually digest it in a proper way, what happened to you, and come out of it with this beautiful feeling of I'm in charge, or whatever it is that came out of this, instead of I'm terrified and things are out of control for me. And that's what happens is if we change the belief, then our whole outlook on life can change, because our beliefs is what creates the reality for us. And the other thing I just wanted to say is the thing you were describing that Sue did with your eyes, having you focus on a spot. That is another new therapy called brain spotting that is an outgrowth of EMDR. And what we've discovered is that the way you look, the eye position that you have, the way you look determines a lot about how you feel. So it's almost as if for you there was literally an eye position, a direction that you looked that activated the neural network in your brain that carried that traumatic experience, which is why when you focused wherever it was you focused, I mean, you could feel it in your body, it sounds like. And you could focus on that spot, and it literally seems to have activated exactly where it was held in your brain and in your system. And if you can focus on that, and again with the bilateral stimulation, the sound, and the questions that Sue was asking, and the kinds of suggestions that she made, all of that helped you to focus right in on that specific thing, and then, change it and digest it properly. So thank you. I mean, that's just incredible description. And so anyway, brain spotting was developed by David Gran, and he too discovered it by accident, and it's a wonderful addition to like this arsenal of tools that we now have, these mind-body therapies that do so much more than talking. It's wonderful to talk about our problems, but there isn't very much going on in our brains when that's happening. It's just not, and if you don't get access to we're not separate. Our mind, our brain, and our body, it's all the same. It's all connected. You can't just take a piece and expect that the whole thing is going to heal. So it's a very kind of holistic treatment. And so now I'm going to turn the camera back to you again, Nadia. I would love for you to talk about your songs. I don't know if either of our two guests have any questions, but I would love, what you did in your concert was to incorporate some of this stuff that you just talked about into the song. Well, obviously into the songs, but also into your description of the song. So it made this beautiful piece that was just an absolute work of art. And I don't know how you were inspired to do that, but anything you can say about that would be wonderful.
Well, I mean, the record really, it just really wrote itself. Every time I'm making a record, I don't realize I'm making a record. It's kind of weird. But actually, the first song I wrote for the record is called Underground. And when I wrote that song, the song's about wanting to go underground, and it was about me wanting to go back into my cave. And I had I had been in EMDR for a year or two, and we were taking a break. Always tried to take breaks so I could maybe escape. And we'd taken a break for a little while, you know, with the idea that when I was struggling again, I would call her and come back in and we would continue to work. That I wasn't finished, but we would take a break. So I was like, oh, I'm fine, and we took a break. And I wasn't fine. And I knew that I wasn't fine because I wrote Underground. And when I wrote the song, you know, it's like the words like, I want to go underground where the rats and the homeless people are found. I want to go underground where it's dark and musty and you can hear the sound of my own footsteps. And once I had finished writing it, I realized, oh man, I am depressed. I am in a really bad way again. I'm here again. And I was really annoyed. I would always get annoyed with myself when I had to go back because I was like, oh man, am I not fixed yet? And you know, the fact that I had written the song and that the song had given me the information that I was unwell, to me, was huge. And the fact that it was the EMDR tools that allowed me to even acknowledge that or understand that to me was like a massive thing. So I wrote Underground, and I immediately got off the piano and I picked up the phone and I said, I need to see you again. I wrote a bad song. So that's kind of how Underground came about. And then what I did with the record is once I finished the record, I'd always been an artist as far as drawing. And in high school, I was doing art as much as music. And for some reason, I believed that I had to choose one or the other when I finished Year 12. I thought, well, I either go to art school or go to music school. I become a singer or I become an artist, but I can't be both. And I believed that, and so that's what happened. I said, okay, I'm done with art. I don't draw anymore. I don't paint. I'm a singer. So I just did music for all those years, and I never, ever, ever picked up a pen, a pencil, a paintbrush ever again. So when I was 17 was when I stopped, and when I was 37 was when I picked it up again. So 20 years had passed, and it's pretty hilarious because my drawings are where I left off. It's exactly the same as piano playing. I play like a 6-year-old and I draw like a 17-year-old. So I just had this overwhelming desire to draw. I could see my songs. The imagery of my own songwriting was so powerful that I had to draw them. So I then came up with this crazy idea that I will draw a drawing for each song on the record, and at my launch, because the place where I launched my record and did the show was actually also an art gallery, that I would hang all of them. And this ridiculous thing that I set up for myself, that I had to draw, each drawing is 22 by 30 inches, which is huge. And I literally, in 2 weeks, insane, I drew 12 drawings. It's like something comes over me and I cannot, the whole world stops. It's like, okay, I have to eat, I have to go to the toilet, I have to walk the dog, I have to shower, and that's it. And then I have to draw, and it's like this, it comes out, and it's like I call it a download, because the information that comes to me is so clear. All the drawings were completely clear. I mean, I knew exactly what Underground looked like. I knew what Middle of the Sea looked like. I knew what The Salesman looked like. I have this knowing where my creative land is so expansive. It's musical. I can hear it. I can write it. I can see it. I can draw it. And it's this, like, for me, it's like a complete creative picture of how I see things. And to be able to do that is like the biggest, talk about freedom, for me to be able to do that, write that song, see it, draw it, and then it's like, okay, now I can be done with that. I'm done with it. And it's like I have all these songs now, 400 odd songs that I'm doing it now, but I'm drawing a picture for every song that I've ever written, because it's just like an extension of the music, and it's an extension of the piece. So it's unbelievable. So I did these drawings for the launch, and I didn't even think that I would sell them or that they would even be for sale. I was just so into drawing that I didn't think about it as a business or making money or anything like that. Like, I was just like, no, it's just an extension of the music, and, I'll have them in my apartment and it'll be great. But after the show, so many people came up to me, how much is this, how much is that, how much is this one? And I was so like, how much? What? You want one? You want to buy it? What are you, crazy? It's just so silly drawings, I didn't put any value on it. So, it's been a couple of weeks. I just sold my third original today. So, and I've got a whole list of orders for print. So today made the call to the Giclée print guy so that I can get them printed, and I'm selling artwork. I'm probably going to sell more artwork than I am records. I know that's what's going to happen. I know it. It's like I'm going to become an artist, and I'm going to become known for my art, not my bloody music. So it's just been this. Like I said, the process of the EMDR just continues to stun and amaze me and blow me away. And the drawing, I'm now in this wonderful land that I don't even want to say I'm enjoying it more than music right now, but I really am. Also because it's fresh and it's new, and it's so exciting to sit down at a blank piece of paper, have an idea, and then and draw it, and it comes out exactly how you saw it in your mind. It's insane. And to me, without sounding egotistical, it's really easy. I just find it so easy. I mean, I'm at the art studio. I can do right now. I'm doing drawings for my first record, which is called The Circus Is Back in Town, and there's 12 songs on that. And I'm actually doing smaller ones because I just want to try something different. It's actually harder to draw. I'm finding to draw smaller ones, but they're like smaller squares, much smaller, like I don't know how big, but small. And I'm going to the studio 4 or 5 hours at a time, and I'm drawing like 4 drawings in one session, which is fast. So I've actually got a gallery show on the 26th of April at the Cell, which is where I had the launch, but it's actually just going to be an art gallery show. There's not going to be any singing, no music. And so right now I'm drawing a body of work for this show, and I was like, if I just have the ocean mask more. So I decided that this body of work is going to be called something about dreams and music, because on top of all this stuff, I dream at night like crazy, and I can wake up in the morning and write 10 pages of the dream. The smells, the sounds, I dream in color. So I'm starting now also to draw my dreams. So I think the launch the gallery show will be of dreams and music, I guess. So yeah, it's a pretty great existence, and I'm so glad I didn't kill myself and that I've arrived at this place so that I can experience this. And and I don't care about being a celebrity, and I actually don't even care about making millions of dollars. For me, right now, I've made it. In my land, I've made it because I have the freedom to express myself creatively, and that's all I really care about. That's all I've ever cared about, and that's all I want to spend my life doing. And if people are buying paintings and if records sell, then that's just icing on the cake. And if I'm able to share my experience, then that's really what I want to do is share my experience. And and if it's speaking to someone, then that's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I've seen those drawings, and they're wonderful and very unique, and they're just full of meaning and just wonderful. So I'm not surprised that you're selling a boatload of them, and good. And I just want to point your attention down there to the website where you can also purchase your album. Is that possible? Okay, good. Wait, I'm gonna put you on. Go ahead.
So the NachiArt.com is the first one. That's where you can see all the artwork and purchase the artwork. And then now I'm putting my website, my big website, NadiaAckerman.com, which is really for the music, but there is a Nachi Art section in there, and and you can see everything there. So that, you know, it all connects. I'm a real computer geek, and you know, I made my own website, and I do everything. So it's all connected. So you'll be able to, wherever you go, you'll be able to find what you're looking for.
Now, you were born to be an artist, but and are a consummate artist on so many levels, and EMDR really freed that up for you, because obviously it was trapped inside you and couldn't get out. But I just want to say that in my experience, every single person that I've ever seen, you know, I truly believe that we're all artists. And whether we express it the way you do with singing and dancing and, you know, drawing and painting and all of that, or whether we express it in other creative ways, that we all have it. We're creative beings. That's what we're made to do, is to create. And if we can free that up, it can be a miracle. And what I've seen in terms of the transformations that have happened, your story is not unusual. It's very dramatic, and there are versions that are much less dramatic, but no, the things that people recover from and the things that they discover inside themselves once they're free of all of this incredibly frozen, stuck pain and the symptoms of being so traumatized that just overtake our nervous systems and everything. And even though you had a relatively long treatment, I mean, compared to talk therapy, I'm sure it was. If you can imagine having done that much work, you couldn't have done that much work by just talking about what was going on. But some people come to EMDR with having been in a car accident, for example, and they haven't had a lot of trauma in their lives, although I would submit that we've all had trauma of one kind or another. It's the human condition to have trauma. But if they haven't had a whole lot of terrible childhood trauma, and they just come having had a car accident, or, for example, the firemen after 9/11, I saw lots of them. And so for them, sometimes one session with EMDR will clear everything up, all the symptoms, all the panic attacks, everything. And that happened with a lot of the firefighters after 9/11. They couldn't work, and they'd come in, not just to me, but other EMDR therapists. They come in and they'd go over what had happened to them, and in one session, the next day they'd be going back to work and feeling fine. So it's everybody's different, but it's an incredible thing. Downy, is there anything you want to say or add to? Are you good? She's amazing, isn't she?
I just want to say thank you, Nadia. That's you're fearless. You're fearless, clearly, and I really appreciate everything you've shared with us, because it's truly enlightening. I mean, I'm familiar with EMDR to some extent, but I had no idea what it could do in that, just the amazing progress that you've made, and the amazing unleashing of what was inside you is a really inspirational story. Thank you so much for sharing that, really.
Oh, I was just going to say you're so welcome. I did want to share one more story. Do we have time? Yeah? All right. So when I was 6, actually, I was sexually abused as a child, and it was a neighbour's. Some new people moved into the street, and it was the neighbour's. She became my friend. We were both 6, but it was her brother, and his name was Ranck. And we had done a lot of work in therapy in regards to that, and it was a big one, and it took a very long time, probably the whole 4 years. But the reason I'm telling you this story is just because of the unbelievable way that the brain works. So it was about a year ago, I was just online on msnbc.com, and there was a news story about a boy who in Russia found a message in a bottle washed up on the beach. And the message belonged to this boy called Ranck from Germany. And the guy who abused me was German, and his name was Ranck. So this story is just about this boy in Russia who finds this message in a bottle from a guy called Ranck in Germany. And the guy had written the letter like 30 years ago. And this young boy in Russia actually traced the letter back to this guy, and they connected. And it's just this incredible story. So I'm just watching this story. I'm not making any connection to Ranck or Germany or my 6-year-old self or anything. I'm just watching this story thinking, that is incredible. Oh, I love this story. I was so into it. It was a video. So I'm watching the boy in Russia, and he's got the bottle and the glass bottle and the letter, and I was just, this is blowing my mind. And literally 10 minutes later, without even knowing what's going on, I find myself on Facebook trying to find Ranck, my Ranck. And I was like, and I found him. There was only one on Facebook, and I found him. And I was like, found him. Okay, so what are you going to do, Nadia? You found him, now what? So I was like, well, I'm going to get in touch with him. I'm going to tell him that what he did was wrong and no longer has wrecked my life. All those years that were wrecked are no longer wrecked, and I'm going to let him know. So I messaged him, I private messaged him on Facebook. First, very, very casually, like, hey, do you remember me? And he wrote back, and he did remember me. But he was very short and very like, yeah, I remember you, great to hear from you, take care, like, please go away. And I was like, not so fast, buddy. So then I wrote back and I said to him, well, do you remember? And he was like, I don't know what came over me. I was like this, I was just like, all right, this is it. And it was, I didn't feel, I wasn't doing it because I didn't need any validation from him. I'd healed and I was okay. But I wanted him to know, what I wanted to do was hand it back over to him. I was like, you know what, I'm sick of carrying this for this, 31 years that I carried it, and now I'm giving it back to you. And you can live with it because it's shit, and you're having it back. So he wrote back like, whatever could you mean? Whatever could you possibly mean? Like, hello. Oh, gee. If you just called yourself out, dude, like if there was any ounce of my being that thought maybe it didn't happen, you just revealed yourself. So I said to him, you and I both know. I know that you know that I know, and we both know that we know what happened. I'm going to tell you again what happened, and I'm just letting you know that I know, and that yes, you did in fact destroy 36 years of my life, but I've healed now, and I'm giving it back to you. We went back and forth. He was telling me all the reasons of why I was making this up and whatever could I be talking about, and I went on and on and on. Finally, after this back and forth, I was like, you know what, I just said to him, I didn't get in touch with you to get your validation or to, for you to tell me whether it did or didn't happen. It happened. And, it was not okay. And I'm just letting you know that this person in the world who's still around knows that you did this, I know that you did this to me. And I'm just, so I handed it back to him, and then I blocked him, and that was the end of it. It was the most unbelievable thing. I still to this day can't believe that I did it. But I did it for my 6-year-old self. It was like, come on, sweetheart, let's go and, let's really deal with this, And talk about healing. I mean, it was like I just brought it all back home, and all my cells were cheering. Woohoo! We did it. We got him. We didn't get him, in therapy pretending, we're in the room. This was real. I was really, and I was in touch with Sue the whole time, and she was so proud of me, and I didn't need to go back and see. I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to go back and see her. This is going to kill me. It's going to break me. And it didn't. I didn't need to see her. I didn't even need to call her on the phone. I just emailed her and told her what I'd done. I'd sent her the conversation back and forth and said, look what happened. And, she was just so proud of me, but I didn't need to go back, and it didn't break me. In fact, it made me more. And, the disturbing thing is that he works with children under 6, and he's married and he has a child, and but he works with he does children's birthday parties, 6 and under, and what can I do about that? So that disturbed me, but I I did it. and the reason I told this whole story was just the connection of watching this, this random thing where this bottle washed up from Ranck from Germany 20 years later, and it didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, found him, got him, and it was like a robot. I mean, I was fully present. But I was driven, and I fully believe it was like the brain, the neurons that just were like, get Ranck.
Oh, that's hysterical. But you're not that far off, the neurons going, get Ranck, get Ranck. It's exactly right. We have these grooves, in our brain. And just as an aside, now we're starting to know more about the brain, and what we know is that it's never too late for it to change. And even up until the day we die, we can change the way our brain works, and we can change our beliefs. And our beliefs that frequently come from childhood are locked in these neural networks, and it's like this groove. It's like this groove that just goes around and around, and every time you go that way, the groove gets deeper until the brain just gets in this habit of going that way, we're going that way. And going that way means seeing the world in a particular way, through the eyes of fear or whatever. So we want to make a new groove, and the new groove heads toward safety and toward power and toward assertiveness and courage, your courage. And so Ranck was a great motivation, because you took a huge step, and in making that and taking that step, you made this huge groove, a new groove. And so now everything heads that direction, like screw Ranck direction, It's fabulous. It's just fabulous. So I'm thinking that we should probably wrap things up now. But I just can't thank you enough, Nadia, for coming on. And I'm gonna hand over the thing to you one more time. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your incredible story, and for helping us to get the word out about EMDR and also brain spotting, so that people know a little bit more about what it is, and that there's actually a tremendous amount of hope for whether you've had terrible trauma or small trauma. It applies to all of us, and you've made it so much more available for everyone. So thank you so much. And now I'm going to hand things over to you and say goodnight or whatever. And
well, am I here? Can you hear me? No, I can't hear me. Where am I? All right, I can't hear me, but I can never hear me. What? Well, whoa. I just want to thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to have this platform. And I really do want to share my experience, and I want to put a spotlight on EMDR, and that's really why I'm writing this book, because I think there are a lot of people out there, especially like young women, who are trapped. And if I can, by sharing my experience and going through what I went through, if I can, shine a light on this, and just if a handful of people decide to go to EMDR and get, make a change, then it would be worth it. But that's definitely, through my music and my art and everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to actually, it's all sort of coming from the EMDR, and I'm trying to, be a spokesperson for it, and be a role model for others to, to heal, that you can do it even when you think you can't. So thank you so much, and I'm so grateful. And yeah, if they have any, I don't know who else is here and who else is listening, but if you have any questions, feel free to email me at nadia@nadiaackerman.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or share any information that I have. And that's it. Shall I put it over to Rhonda or yeah? Rhonda, you want to say anything?
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to say that, your story is always really honest, and I think you really expose yourself so that other people can really heal from their experiences, and also learn and know where they can go, because a lot of people don't have knowledge that they can go into EMDR and that it's actually going to give them that much benefit. So, as always, Nadia, you really connect with a lot of people and really help a lot of people. And I think even with your music and how honest it is, you really connect with a lot of people. In fact, I've been to many of the shows, and generally there's people crying in the audience because they're so moved by, not many artists in the planet of the earth can actually be that honest and that exposed. So thank you. I love this show. Thank you.
And the movie.
Back to you.
Well, this is Tim told the whole idea.
We'll say goodnight now. I just want to once more thank you, Nadia, and also thank you to Yacket.com for giving me the incredible privilege of working with this just incredible technology. It's incredible. It's incredible. So please tell your friends about it, and join Yacket and support them so that we can get more shows like this. And it is awesome. Thank you, Rhonda. It is awesome technology, and I really appreciate having a small platform here. So I appreciate it. I want you all to think about EMDR and think about the incredible power of possibility, and the possibility to heal and be more creative, and go out your door, have some dreams, go after them, get ignited.